and Bloods going on, but I heard one of your guys say like they started rolling 60s in St. Louis. They came from the Cavity Courts on the west side by a dude named Process, and he brought Tom Malone. He went to 60s. Well, it was a dude named Easy. He came to the Cavity Courts in '86, and he took Process back to him to 60s over there on Crenshaw and Slauson, and brought Tom Malone and T and some other dude down, and he like started spreading them on to the north side, like Baden, Mimica. Yeah. If he was from St. Louis, they know what the streets is.
All right, so that's how the 60s started, you saying?
Yeah, pretty much. It started really spreading like in '88.
Shout out my boy Val, but tell me more about the Deuces and Dogs thing.
Well, the Deuces and the Dogs things, that was only like certain Bloods and certain Deuces that came together because they was outnumbered by the 60s and the 1-9s and the Grapes. So they just formed together. But a lot of Bloods didn't really fall under it because they didn't respect the Crips thing. I mean, going with Crips. So it was like certain hoods that went to the Deuces and Dogs.
Okay. I see you got some flicks of Neighborhood Paru here. Like, how did that start up there? Do you know?
Well, it was one of my papa relatives named Daryl Coleman. He had a cousin from California. His name was Smooth, and he the one with the glasses on. He moved to California, and when he was 6 years old, and first he moved to Sacramento, but then he moved to Inglewood. Yeah. And he became a neighborhood Piru. And then like in the mid '80s, like in summer of '85, he came back down. He was living in a community called Berkeley off of Torlina. And he started from there. He was recruiting people and pretty much putting people onto the money, because that's what it was about at first, before Colors came out. Colors kind of like ruined everything in St. Louis when the gangbangers was, the Cali dudes was coming down here. They was just trying to be on money, strictly. It came from another dude named D-Rat, too. He was from Neighborhood Power. Yeah. And he was out here, and he was out there, too, in Berkeley, and he was out there in Inglewood, and he was out there on the west side, too. Smooth, he got killed in 2002. And D-Rat, he's still alive. He just came out of prison. He the one in that picture on A Deuce Day with Sneaks from Inglewood Families.
Okay.
Sneaks still alive, but yeah, they all doing good in life.
Okay. What about the Inglewood Families?
The Inglewood Families, they started on a street. They didn't start in they started in two areas in St. Louis. The first one was Terry Street off Goodfellow and on the west side. Then they started out there in the Chateau Apartments in Berkeley off of Frost and Hanley.
All right.
It started in Berkeley in '88, and it started on Terry Street in the summer of '85 or '86. Bismarck, RP.
And I see you guys got the 19th Street Long Beach Crips out there.
Yeah, and they started in McLeod Town in a dub by a dude's named Tez Lope, Tubby, C Styles, Crip Drake. Pretty much. They all still alive. I think Tez Lope's passed away. I don't know. But C Styles, you probably know him more. He's I think he do the rap with Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, of course, C-Style, of course, yeah. And I see you got Crenshaw Mafia too.
Yeah, the Crenshaw Mafia, they were started by my family, G Graham too, and Tony Smalls. Well, G Graham, he was originally from St. Louis, and he moved to California from Inglewood. That's where CRENSHAW at. And he came back down here on the west side of Darby and Ferris. But he didn't start spreading it for real till he got out there to Berkeley in 1990. But another dude was Tony Smallwood. Well, not Smallwood, but Smallwood. That's what they call him. But yeah, he was another one. He was from Velda Village, and he moved down there on Simple, Arlington. That's how it is spread. And he went out there to A Deuce, and pretty much kind of started them. And then he went a couple more places. Then you had another dude named Tonto. He went down to Wells.
And Six Deuce Brims.
The Six Deuce Brims, they came from, well, there's a couple families that Six Deuce Brims. You got the Big Pookie and them, and Big Pookie, Twan Dunn, and Pooh Blood up there in Kinloch and Berkeley. They had L.A. Todd. Then you had Big Trigger that came down here from California in like the mid and late 80s. So he was on the run for Most Wanted. In 1990, he was on Most Wanted. But he came down here and he was like in places like Inglewood. Yeah, that's where he had family at. Out there in Velda Village, 49 Bad, where he was at, Wells, Simple. He was just everywhere at Berkeley, too. And you had another one named Sarico Brown. He came from California. And he moved down here to Inglewood when, like, in the early 80s, mid 80s. Hold on right quick. I forgot to mention another dude with the Inglewood Families. Can't forget about Freeze. He was out there, too. He kind of put on Simple Mob, with the Inglewood Families. And he put on Hold 'em Up, 1-1 Hold 'em Up. Then he went out there to Meacham Park. And he used to be out there in Inglewood, too. Can't forget about Freeze. Okay. And you said Avalon. Avalon started by a dude named, well, he probably out there in California. They probably know him as Goldie Low. But he's out here in St. Louis, I think they call him like Nuts. But, yeah, he started that on, he started like that in different areas in St. Louis, like like off of Wobbler, 53rd Wobbler, and 43 Penrose and New Thread. Over there in the Gibson, Fortray Gibson, it was all Avalons at first. The Avalons and Walker are still around though, and also Max and yeah, but Nuts the main guy though.
I see you guys got a homegrown blood gang, the Overlord Bloods.
The Overland Blood gang.
Yeah.
Well, that was oh yeah, I forgot about the Inglewood Families. Another dudes, other two dudes. I can't forget about John and Tucker. They came from Bonita Park, and they went out there in Berkeley too. It was 7-7 Inglewood Families, but the OPGs, the Overland Bloods, they was in like in Overland, and that's kind of like back then they was considered like kind of like a high area, a nice area, but. They kind of changed it with the blood stuff, and it was a lot of white boys out there and Hispanics, and they was some of them was trying to get on their feet. And Talking and Jock came over there, kind of had the influence over them, and he started putting a lot on their feet. Up a lot of them, like Sarico Brown too, but mostly the OPG was started by like Talking and Jock and Blue Trigger, and he was out there. And they just put on a lot of dudes to the blood game. It was all over Overland. Some of them still alive, but a lot of them gone, deceased. No gang stuff, but some of them died off like drugs and stuff like that.
And the Rolling 30 Crips.
The Rolling 30 Crips, that came from my uncle, Whack, Michael Johnson, MJ. He went out there to, well, I don't know about the dudes on 10 Dub, but for St. Louis, like, period, like, it really came from him. Like, when the Page did area, Hantley Hills, the Benita Park, Eastgate. Cause he went out there to California because we had family out there. And he came back down, rolling 30. And people know who Wack is. Yeah, he was really like that, but yeah, R.P. to Wack though. But his uncle, my other uncles, Gooby and Bubble, they rolling 60s and they one of them great.
Is the 79 Grape Plaza Crips the same as y'all banging Grape Street or something?
Yeah, the Grape start. That's where one of the places the Grape started at Grape Plaza. The other one was the real first one was kind of like in the city, but I mean like the city and the county because we got St. Louis County and St. Louis City. But the first one in the city was over there on Grape Hill. It started by first they was it was a dude's name. It was Mexicans. They was Warrior Grapes. They was coming down there in the mid-'80s. And it was already a dude named Grapehead that was already down, and they would come to his house. They pretty much got the connection on from there. And that's how Grapehead became Grape Streets, and they was coming down there a lot. Grape Street Crips from Jordan Downs coming down there because it's like living in the Jordan Downs and Watts.
Okay.
It looked the same.
All right.
But the grapes, they got grapes out there in Paisley too. Started by Big Grape. He had a little Cali club too.
And lastly, what I got here, the 5700 Kinloch Bloods.
Hey, that was started by my family. That was started by my family too. Hot Rod and some more other dudes. They was started at a dude named J Rock House. And 57 Kinloch Bloods. They was pretty much on the bottom of Kinloch at first, over there by the Boys Projects, and they was Inglewood Families. The older guys from Kinloch that was banging Bloods, they was neighborhood Pirus. And some of them was Bloods from us. When Sneaky Twin came from California. Well, they came from UCD at first, and then they moved to the Chateau Apartments. And some of them became Bloods through them, and some of them became Bloods through Taka and Ja. And some of them became Bloods, because they already had their own ties. Then you had the Jackson Park Bloods, and they was Inglewood Families. Some of them was Treetop Pirus. Some of them was Crenshaw Mafia. Some of them was a whole lot of things. Then you got the Hancock Mob in Berkeley. And they was Brims. Jefferson, 61 Jefferson. That was pretty much running under the Jackson Park. He had the Crips on Evergreen right next to them. And they was rolling 60s, 19s and stuff like that. But in Kinloch, it was predominantly all Bloods, but also we had Crips too on Kinloch too. Like Boogaloo and his people. He was rolling 30. He was a rolling 30 Crip, Boogaloo. But yeah, Crips on Kinloch, they was like Hoovers and rolling 60s and rolling 30s. Yeah, a few grapes. You want to know how the Deuces and the 6-0s in the 60s beef started?
The 6-0s in the 60s?
Yeah. I think people kind of blew it out.
You mean the six Deuce East Coast, you mean?
Yeah, the 6 Deuce East Coast and versus the 60s.
Yeah.
It started with like the Bud and the Collins and Carter dudes. But at first, the 6 Deuces and some of the dudes from like the old Fallon Park area, they some of them was Hoovers at first. And some people start flipping over to certain things like 19s or 60s or 6 Deuce or 87 Kitchen Crip. But they pretty much started between the Bud and Collins and Carter. They was beefing with each other because I guess like some of the dudes from the Bud was like coming over robbing the Collins and Carter dudes and blaming the guess one night they just they said Elfin, and they started like retaliation on them dudes. They was catching a lot of dudes, and it just built up there. Then the following incident was like it was two incidents that led up to the war. It was the one at a girl named Miss Leia house, and then there was another one. It was the real one that people known for, like the Scary Terry one, but that wasn't really from College Park. That was really from some dudes off of Alice, and they was Hoovers. Because S.WigginsTV was over there marking out their stuff. He came back from 60s. He kind of started on the bud. He came back from 60s because he was getting hooked with like fast stacks. Fast stacks had to hook with process, and Tom Malone was down there on the north side, and they got connected too. And he brought S.WigginsTV back to 60s to show him how the 60s rock out there. 60, and S.WigginsTV came back on the 60s heavy. He was out there marking up, like, the tags for the Hoovers. He was like crawling them out, crossing them out, disrespecting them. He was on the 60s stuff heavy. He knew what the 60s was for real. So that's how it kind of really started. And just expanded because the dudes that did it off of Alice, they was accepted with the College and Quarter dudes, so that's how the beef started. But everybody that was 60s or 6 East Coast Crips, they didn't beef though. Like you had some of them in the same neighborhood, like the dudes from Eastgate. Eastgate, they was like a whole bunch of things. You had like Santana Block Crips from Mark. That came from he got blood with the Cali dudes. Well, they came down here and he went back to Cali and came back down. But he ended up like it's a crazy story with him. He actually ended up killing himself. I think accidentally on one of them games that you just Russian roulette, right? That's what they call it. He ended up killing himself in the house. Pretty much like that was like the end of Santana Block in Eastgate. But a lot of the dudes from Eastgate, they also come from the Cavity Courts too. So in all the 60s, then you had like Short Dog, who was like a 6 Deuce and stuff like that. I don't know how they became 6 Deuce, but yeah, they was like roll 30s, 6 Deuce. Some of them was probably a little bit grapes. The Santana Block and rolling 60s. It was about money over there too. It was how it went.
Okay, for sure.
Then this then you had the 6ix9ine murder mob that was started by some dudes from the BODs and BODs and the Dub. They just formed together, the 6-0s and the 1-9s, and they went down to the south side and they started putting on hoods like the Meadow Mob. Well, they didn't put on, but they had a little influence on hoods like the Meadow Mob and like the Traytown area. They had some other Crips on 32 Cali. They was originally 10-7 Hoovers. Then you had some Crips on Shenandoah. They was affiliated with Leclerc 10. And some of them was grapes from Grape Hill too. And it was a hood on far south side. They was Colonial Village. And they was like Grape Streets. And they had the 1-4 Peabody. They had some Crips over there. But it became majority Bloods. Like, it was crazy. They had Crips in one area of the projects. You had the one, what they call the murder side now. They was new houses. They was just those East Coast Crips. Then you had the Grape Hill. Then you had the Mac. Now the Mac, they was affiliated with like Lindsay from the Bud. I think he went over there from what I heard. I'm not sure if this is right. He kind of like had a little fallout with the Bud, and he went over there to the Mac. I'm not sure, you know what I'm saying, about that. But yeah, then you had the Darkside. They was Bloods and Crips and GDs, you know. I could tell you a little bit more about the GD stuff too if you want to know about
that. We'll say that for another episode. We just gonna keep it moving keyway. But no, I appreciate you, H, man. I appreciate the history, bro.
I got a So the Bloods and the Crips, they was already
put fast as
they
you
was pretty
can,
much
bro.
coming. Yeah. So the Bloods and the Crips, they was pretty much like they was coming in the early and mid '80s, but they ain't start like people ain't. It was people claiming it a little bit, but it was like kind of blowing off because it wasn't televised on TV. So a lot of people didn't know about it. So it was pretty like swept under the rug because the people that like in their late 50s or mid 50s, or some of them in their early 50s that was claiming Bloods and Crips in like the mid 80s. They was like they was doing it for the money. Then when Colors came out, it just kind of like ruined everything because they showing people like even across the world, probably in LA too, it kind of like ruined everything for some people that was just on the money tip. It kind of like show people how to like destroy their community more, even though the drugs was already doing it. But it kind of like show people how to like do drive-bys and all that stuff, even though that was kind of like happening in St. Louis already, but it kind of like expanded it more. Like, I guess it's like kind of like the movie Scarface, kind of. Yeah, like a lot of influence on the world somehow. But yeah, okay. So I'm willing to get on if somebody want to come on and debate me, I guess. But yeah, LA definitely didn't start no Crips or nothing like that. They ain't become Crips till like '89. And believes he ain't go out to California till he was a Grape Street from LA. He never brought no 60s down to LA. Now you had a dude named Fat Tony. He was really from Wabata, but he ain't getting no Crip stuff from LA. But he later then moved over to LA. I don't know if that's how they became 60, but I think LA became 60 through the Bud. The influence off the Bud ain't never got put on by no 60s or nothing like that. Then some of them was like rolling 90s over there too.
All right, for sure, man. I appreciate it, bro.
Then yeah.
I appreciate it, my S.WigginsTV. Good looking, man. St. Louis history. Y'all drop a comment. Let us know what was happening, man. Until next time, be gone.